Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Triangle Offense. I'm Monish. As always, I'm joined by Nishant. Steph Curry touched the Denver Nuggets, didn't he? 53 points. It was an amazing shootout. On today's episode, though, I want to focus on the Eastern Conference because we always talk about the West. Hey, we kind of forget that the Eastern Conference exists as well. And it's a fun table if you look at it. Everyone is in a crowd apart from the top three out there. This is going to be a fun conversation. Okay, let's start off with the Philadelphia 76ers, Brooklyn Nets, and Milwaukee Bucks. Now they're going to finish in top three inevitably, no matter in which order. And it kind of looks like Philly and the Nets will take the top two, and they are pretty close against each other. And Milwaukee Bucks will finish third. Do you think the top seed actually matters in when it comes to these teams?
Why does anyone chase the top seed? There are two big reasons, right? One is relatively easier opposition.
Mm-hmm.
In most seasons, that will be true. Not just the first round. The first round already, even if you're the second seed, maybe you get a easy enough opponent. But then the second round, you're facing somebody from that 4, 5, 6 pile, from the 3 to 6 pile. So um, it's it's better. It's an easier path to the finals relatively.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the East. Who cares? Like 5, 6, 7, whoever comes from the playing games, they're all going to be trash. The Miami Heat from last season were a total aberration. They usually just rank garbage teams that come in those slots, and you can see right that the East is fun for a whole different reason. The West is fun because it's so competitive all the way till 11, 12. Everyone's got something or the other to play for. And the East, it's like at least there's a top three this time. Usually there's one team that pulls away. There's like another team somewhere behind them, and then there's 50
Yeah.
feet of crap in the other guys, right? So in the East, I don't know if that seed matters that much from a matchup perspective, unless you're like the Bucks and you have a nightmare matchup, seeded 5 or 6, like the Heat, right? Then okay. The other big advantage is home court.
Mm-hmm.
When you finish the one seed, you have home court throughout the
Yeah.
conference playoffs at least. So there, this season, I don't know if that's going to be a big deal because most cities don't have crowds. Some cities have partial attendance. It's not the same thing. The 12th man is kind of like the 1 by 12th man right now, and maybe for a city like Philly, it still helps to have partial attendance if that's a thing, if that's possible. But I won't really, I'm not really considering that a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Minus the and Yeah, actually, I'm trying to think of one angle where the home court man. It really doesn't like Embiid. All of the strength that they draw is from that rakious home crowd that they get in
Yep.
Philly, and they're not going to be there. I don't think it matters all that much. I think somewhere in the top three is fine for all of these teams. But
Mm-hmm.
if you can go one, why not? It'll be that much more easy a path for you to go to the finals and maybe get out of the East.
Of course, given that Milwaukee Bucks are most probably going to finish third, you avoid the Milwaukee Bucks for one more round. I think that's the
Correct.
biggest motivation for you to chase the top
Hmm.
spot because if you're Philly, you don't want to face Giannis in the second round. I know you'll inevitably face him. I mean, if you need to get to the finals, you either face him or you hope that somebody else knocks him out, like Jimmy Butler or even the Brooklyn Nets, right? So if I was Embiid or if I was the Sixers, I would want to avoid Giannis for as long as possible. That's a motivation for me to go on top. Brooklyn Nets, I wouldn't bother too much. I think even if they finish eighth, I think they're good enough.
Hmm.
Except that they'll have to face tough opposition all the time. But Brooklyn Nets, I think they care less about finishing the top.
Yeah.
But Philly, I think, definitely want to stay on top to avoid Giannis for one more round. Giannis, unfortunately, stuck in third, so he'll have to face either of these two teams for one in the second round itself. Do you think that makes sense? I mean, Embiid facing off against Giannis and wanting to avoid him for one more round.
Yeah, I think most teams should want to avoid the Bucks for one more round. I don't think this is the Bucks from last year. Although we like making fun of them and making light of them. Two things. One, there's no Bledsoe, but there is Drew Holiday. That's a huge upgrade, especially in the postseason. Two, 2 seasons ago, we saw Giannis crash and burn
Mm-hmm.
against Kawhi. But a season later, when they got knocked out by the Heat, we can't quite call it a fully competitive series because Giannis was injured towards the end of it.
Yep.
And you can never write them off. Like I could have said Denver Nuggets are done twice last season, and they came back from pretty much that last nail in the coffin. So there's always going to be that what if Giannis was fit
Mm-hmm.
angle to it, right? So this season, if it's a fully fit Bucks, having upgraded Bledsoe to Drew Holiday, having given him a big ass deal now, kept him happy. Middleton back with one more year of playoff experience under his belt. Maybe he's a lot calmer now. Maybe he's added more to his arsenal. He was always already a very good player, but
Yeah.
maybe he's added better decision making, better the ability to get to the spots a little more, because he does get streaky once he starts shooting from his hot spots. And maybe now the team with Jrue Holiday and Giannis know how to find him better, right? All of these things come into play. So, and they are an elite defensive unit, the Bucks. And when they choose to be, they can be among the best in the league. So most teams except the Brooklyn Nets would want to avoid the Bucks.
Right.
Brooklyn, Drew Holiday is great, but Kyrie and Steph Curry will run circles around him, like they will run circles around anyone. And nobody's stopping James Harden. Nobody's getting a block on Kevin Durant. So Brooklyn little less so, but everyone else should want to avoid the Bucks. So for Philly, it's all the more imperative that they get to the top, even if that means hey, some partial crowds in Philadelphia, maybe they can draw off that energy. Not a big factor, but it should matter most to Philly right now because they have a realistic shot and they have more to gain from it.
Right. Each of these top three teams have been affected by injuries, though, haven't they? I mean, Embiid
Yeah.
sat out for a bit. The Nets have had their players in rotation, and now Giannis has missed 5 games. Do you think it's a point of it's concerning for the Bucks that Giannis is missing games, or you think they're just being very cautious with him? You know that you're going to finish third, give him a bit of rest before the playoffs. What do you think is happening with the Bucks? Because there's no real report coming in, yet he's missed game after game after game. It's 5 games now. And on a side note, it's also impacting my fantasy league. So,
Yeah.
you think it's kind of concerning?
No, I think it looks to be precautionary. You would have heard something by now. Um, it's not covert ops. Nobody keeps these things secret for too long. You would have heard something by now. My best guess is they want to avoid something like last season, where these guys played so many games for that amazing record, win loss, and then they went to the playoffs and they kind of crashed and burned. Maybe they want to avoid that and they're giving him his break, which makes sense. Actually, I wouldn't be concerned if I were the Bucks or a Bucks fan or or a Philly fan. I'd be concerned if I'm Adam Silver right now because you got a slurry of stars injured in the West. All the big
Hmm.
names in the East are sitting out. A lot of these seem to be precautionary. People are taking way longer to get back than they should. I don't know if this is some kind of soft rebellion for bringing forward the start date of the season. I don't know what this is, but the league should be worried because they've already lost tons of money thanks to the lockdown last year and all of that. And then the bubble also, as amazing as it was logistically, saw much fewer TV ratings than
Yep.
regular NBA season. The playoffs usually do. And then this season's not been spectacular. It's been better, but it's not been spectacular. And then when you add to that all of the injuries in the Western Conference, and then all of these random extended breaks in the East as well, and then we've not even gotten to Kyrie Irving yet. So the biggest problem here and the concern should be for the league because teams will find a way to get by. It's not the first time we're seeing teams take extra cautious approaches as the playoffs get nearer and nearer. So I wouldn't be worried if I'm Bucks. You'd have heard something by now. But I would be really worried if I'm not already super worried if I'm Adam Silver.
Right. So that was the top three. The rest of the table is such a crowd out there in the middle. I mean, I'm not even going to go through the rankings because it might change by the time this episode is
Yeah.
out. But because one game could push you from 4 to 8 or the other way around. So it's the Hawks, the Heat, Hornets, Celtics, Knicks, Indiana Pacers, and Chicago Bulls who sit in the remaining top 4 to 10 spot.
Hmm.
Now, out of these, I think Hawks have been the most informed team since the new coach Nate McMillan took over. They've been on an
Yeah.
incredible run. You think they'll sol? I mean, they will improve that spot and remain on fourth. I mean, just staying in fourth is a big advantage for the Hawks, don't you think? And then you have the Heat and the Celtics, who definitely have to finish in the top six. I don't see Heat or the Celtics playing the playing games.
Yeah. Yeah. No. First of all, the Hawks, two teams that we in the beginning at the start of the season when we were making our predictions, two teams that we picked to improve drastically over the previous season. Among the other teams
Hmm.
were Phoenix Suns and the Atlanta Hawks, and both of them sucked initially. They
Yeah.
were well off the mark. We were at one point we were questioning if they'll even make the playoffs. Where like
Yep.
Phoenix, I remember I think I said something like top four in the West or some such,
Yep.
and Hawks somewhere in that mix, fifth to eighth. Uh, Good to see them coming back because now it makes a lot of sense. The world isn't as screwed anymore. because those squads you don't expect them to be as low as they were in the first
Yeah.
few weeks. Uh, Atlanta, I like what I'm seeing, but like they can be contained. I don't know. I don't know why I get this feeling they can be contained, and they've got a fragile lineup too. A lot of their dips and ebbs and flows in form are because of injuries and random disappearance acts by players, and they've got a disgruntled Collins on looking to be on his way out, and they've got a Capella who the hell knows when he gets hurt. When he plays, he's great. And that's the problem because when he gets hurt, it's over. And but they have a decent fixture schedule, so I'm going to say Hawks will hold their spot
Mm-hmm.
surprisingly, or at
Mm-hmm.
most concede one rank to the Heat. I
Okay.
don't see it any other way because the Charlotte Hornets have their own injury concerns.
True.
Celtics, nobody has any idea what they're doing. Least of all, Brad Stevens. When they get a win, they're like, "Oh, hey, that's great. We got like, okay." And Knicks are too far behind. I think Knicks are quite a few games behind the what are they 9.5 Hawks 8 okay 1.5. Jesus.
1.5
I
games
was gonna.
behind.
I was
Not a
expecting
lot.
to see a larger gap based on the rankings, but yeah, no. But Knicks will also struggle unless the Hawks pick up some big injury.
Mm-hmm.
I'd still expect them to hold. But Hawks being the Hawks, any one of them can pick up a big injury and it's over. Like they'll in the East, they slide so fast they'll go back to 8th or 10th by the time that player comes back 2 or 3 weeks later. I'm holding on for now. Fox the Hawks will finish at the fourth or concede one rank to the Miami Heat.
And then the Celtics, they definitely need to finish in the top six. I don't see the Celtics playing a
Yeah.
playing game because they just need to jump over the Hornets. And I think Hornets have actually done well despite their injury troubles with
Right.
LaMelo and Hayward out. They've actually kind of stayed there, but I don't see that lasting. I think there's still a chance that LaMelo and Hayward will come back before the playoffs begin and they could
Hmm.
solidify. But I think that's a little too late. I think they will still find a playing spot, but I see them slipping behind the Celtics at least.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Playing spot for sure. So without Lamelo and Hayward, this is basically last year's Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say.
Yep.
Devontae and Rozier and all the guys. Minus Batum, big loss. The franchise shall mourn forever, but it's largely the same franchise. Actually, even without Batum, it's the same franchise, right? It doesn't really matter much. So they play okay. We've seen this. We've seen this team last season. They're all right. Maybe if they make a late push with Gordon Hayward, you don't want to rush him back. Lamelo, I have
Yeah.
no idea. I have a feeling this franchise will do a Pelicans from last season and be super
Mm-hmm.
cautious with Lamelo. Like put him on a
Okay.
minutes restriction when he comes back, all that crap. So playing games for sure, but they're definitely going to drop. I think that's really the like if I were the Celtics, that's my meal ticket. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt I can outperform the Heat in the remainder of the season. Hawks are a little way off. Maybe they see a slump in form, but I'm not going to count on it. The one team
Mm-hmm.
that I can bank on being able to overtake is the Charlotte Hornets with their already exposed injury concerns, right? And that's where I'd bank. They're bang on like one game in hand, neck and neck. I'd expect
Yeah.
the Hornets to drop much more than I expect the Celtics to rise, but that's what's going to happen indirectly.
And the remaining three teams, the Knicks have done
Yeah.
incredibly well to still remain in a playoff contention discussion.
Hmm.
And the Pacers actually have been very disappointing for me because I picked them in the top four when the season started and they've just slipped inexplicably almost. And then Chicago Bulls, they've
Yeah.
been on and off. I think they have this streak of games where Zach Levine goes off, and then there's a
Yeah.
streak of game where Zach Levine goes off, but they still lose.
Yeah.
So the only consistent factor is Zach Levine going off. But Bulls have remained 10th, and I think that they will remain there. The Pacers and Knicks might just trade places, but Knicks have been really good so far, defensively especially.
Yeah, no, the Knicks have been great, but I think off late their form has also been shaky. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's as best as I can put it. I mean, they beat the Lakers today, which is like whatever, big deal. Right now, anyone can beat the Lakers except Brooklyn apparently. But they've had I think they're 5-5 in their last
Yep.
10 or something like that. They've had a pretty inconsistent run. The Bulls have been atrocious,
Yep.
which it actually is quite surprising because you'd expect, with the moves that they've made with Vucevic and everything, that they would uh, rocket to the top, but that didn't quite work out as well
Yeah.
as they planned. Uh, or it's a work in progress, and you'll see it. But they've not had a great streak. They've dropped 7 games in their last 10. The only team that's on the come up in that play-in position scenario is actually the Pacers.
Hmm.
They've been all right. They've dropped a couple of games, but they had a tough schedule. They've been all right. And they're sitting right now a game and a half behind the Knicks. I wouldn't put it past them to move up. But
Hmm.
Knicks, Pacers, Bulls, I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't think so. First of all, is there a risk of any new entrant into this play-in situation? I doubt it. Wizards
I
are
don't
way
think so. I
off.
think, yeah,
Yeah,
the Raptors have kind of given up already.
correct.
So,
Correct. I think the Raptors are looking to go the other way. So
yeah.
so they're off. So I don't think there's anyone pushing in from below them. But so you're looking at Celtics, Knicks, Pacers, Bulls. I expect Celtics to move up. I expect Hornets to move down. So we're
Hmm.
saying Hornets, Knicks, Pacers, Bulls. We can talk all day about how these ranks are going to get shuffled, but that's the 4 teams I
Yep.
expect to be in the 7 to 10 zone. I think that's what matters. I
Yep.
think Bulls are largely going to finish where they are. Pacers might move up a little. New York might
Right.
move down a little, whatever. But these are the 4 teams. So Hornets, Knicks, Pacers, and Bulls. And you know what? That's a super exciting mini play-in series. That's a March Madness unto itself in the East.
Yeah, I think the like I was telling you just before the episode started, this
Yeah,
this week is going to be a dream for the NBA. They have the Knicks finally in this discussion. They have Zach Levine, a star,
and the Bulls are
waiting
back.
to break out in that discussion. Zion Williamson, Ja Morant,
Yeah,
Steph Curry, even. It's going to be a fun week. I think the scenario is going to stand. I think the plane. What do you call it? The format is going to stick, and I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
think they're going to go back to the 8 seeds, because I know there have been a little bit of complaints. Like Luka Doncic complained yesterday, why am I mean, I don't understand the playing game, and why do I need to play? Draymond Green said the planes don't motivate him enough, but well, who's competing for it? So
Yeah.
I think it's going to stay though. At least it's fun for you rarely get to see a knockout game in the NBA, and these teams in those positions, I think it's going to stay.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if it motivates Draymond or not. As long as Steph Curry is motivated, nobody cares. Hey, first of all, let's just like cut the crap. Greatest defender of all time, whatever. Nobody, shut up. Two, um, in the East, I'd watch out for Indiana though. They're one of those sneaky teams you don't expect to explode, and then they can explode because
Hmm.
they've got it all. Actually, they've got another charismatic, like the Jokic of the East in Sabonis, a
Yep.
tripped up machine. They've got pretty amazing rim protection, I must say, in Miles Turner, who's also a
Yeah.
stretch big. It's like at one end he's like a light Rudy Gobert light version with his rim protection, and then at the other end he's kind of like Kelly Olynyk for the Rockets, where he's a stretch big and all of that. So I like that. Then they lost Oladipo. Okay, kind of a blow, but I really like Karis LeVert. I thought we saw something really special in
Hmm.
the bubble last season and towards the end of last season, and he's actually been playing really well. He was ginger footed initially when he came back from injury, but from his treatment or whatever, and but since then he's actually been really good. He's been balling out, and I appreciate it a lot because he's in my fantasy league team, and I've been holding him for a while there. But I'd watch out for the Pacers. They're one of those sneaky teams that can. I mean, all you need is a good day. It's a one
Yep.
game elimination thing, 2 games
Yep.
maybe if you finish low down. But yeah, I have a feeling the Pacers will sneak through.
All right. Then, if you look at the matchups, the Philly and the Nets would either play any of these 4 teams, which I think they should easily get through. But when you look at the third place team, Milwaukee versus the Celtics, that is going to be fun. I mean, as a Milwaukee fan, I mean, I would be concerned if I was one, because you don't want to play the Celtics first up. Then you either end up playing Brooklyn or Philly in the second round.
Yeah.
Where are you going with this? So I would hate to be in Milwaukee's place right now.
Yeah, but listen, I mean, Milwaukee at this point, like nobody cares. If they make incremental improvements in the playoffs, nobody cares. One round for they've already been to the final. So even if they go
Yep.
there and crash, it's going to be a failure. At this stage, Giannis, Supermax, Drew Holiday, everything else. Maybe you could have done more, but you didn't. This is now you live with your consequences, right? Nobody cares if they don't get out of the East. It's one more shitty year. They didn't do what they could have because it's unrealized potential that's frustrating, right? If even
Yep.
now, as they're presently constructed, if Miami Heat failed to make it out of the East, that's fine. You went to the semis, great, good season. Even if they've been to the finals last season, it's
Yep.
fine. You don't get the sense they're wasting their potential. With Bucks, you
Yeah.
get that every year. So I'm not saying championship or bust, but get to the finals or bust. Nobody cares what else they do. They're jittery, they're nervous, they could have had, but nobody gives a fuck. Get to the finals or shut up. Just and give Giannis to the Lakers or whatever.
Yeah, and the other match would probably be the Heat versus the Hawks. Heat would even if the lower seed, I think they would start off as favorites. Or do you see the Hawks
Oh no,
pulling off an
the
upset
Heat
over
would
there?
butcher the Hawks. I don't even think that's a sweep, gentleman sweep at best.
All right, so that is how it would stand out, and then uh, you'll see Brooklyn or Philly, whoever finishes second, take on the Bucks. That's the matchup that we're all waiting for from the
Yeah,
East
that's the
stands.
matchup of the Eastern playoffs. Whoever that is, right? That's the matchup.
Yeah, so it's like the first seed has a clear path to the finals, I would say, and that's what they should. That's why I say the motivation to finish first is a lot more for Philly because Brooklyn would still be the tougher team, whoever they face, but Philly, I think, definitely needs to finish them in
Yeah.
the top position. All right, then. So that was the Eastern Conference playoff permutations and seeding permutations. But that's all I
Wow.
have for today's episode, and I will catch up tomorrow.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.